This is my great Aunt Elizabeth, and she is a walking miracle. Her parents were told that she would not live past the age of 6 because of her Down syndrome, but today she is 55 years old and is still happily living. It is important to be educated on Down syndrome so that instead of seeing them as people who are disabled, we see them as human beings. All the information that I will be presenting you with today came from very reliable medical sources such as the Center for Disease Control and Prevention, Mayo Clinic, and the National Down Syndrome Society. I also obtained my information from reliable scholarly journals such as the European Journal of Pediatrics and the Human Molecular Genetics. So, Down syndrome is the most common chromosomal condition, and it affects more than 200,000 people in the United States every single year. So, it is important to understand Down syndrome so that when you come across someone who has it, you can be empathetic and understanding towards them. In order to help you understand Down syndrome today, I'm going to be explaining to you what Down syndrome is, what causes it, and how people who have Down syndrome are affected. So, first, I will start by telling you what exactly Down syndrome is. So a person without Down syndrome has 46 chromosomes. 23 come from the mom and 23 come from the dad. Down syndrome occurs when someone has 47 chromosomes. In order to understand how an extra chromosome is made, we are going to have to look into the cell, and more specifically the nucleus. So in the nucleus are genes, and this is where the genetic material is stored. So the gray part is a nucleus. And so inside of the nucleus, the genes gather and collect on the chromosomes, which are the rod-like structures according to the NDSS. So during pregnancy, chromosomes are what determine how the body of a baby will look and function both inside and outside of the womb, according to the CDC. Down syndrome is a result of an extra copy of one of those chromosomes, which is chromosome 21. And so chromosome 21 is a one that is circled in red right over here. And this copy can either be a full copy or a partial copy, but there's just some extra copy of chromosome 21 in people with Down syndrome. Now that you know what Down syndrome is, it is time to look at what exactly causes this extra copy of chromosome 21. Down syndrome is a result of abnormal cell division. So, a mutation in cell division while the baby is being developed in the womb is what leaves the baby with 47 chromosomes as opposed to the normal 46. Down syndrome doesn't have any known causes according to the NDSS. Down syndrome in most cases is not inherited. However, translocation Down syndrome is one type of Down syndrome that is passed on from the parent to the child, but this only occurs in about 3 to 4% of all Down syndrome cases. According to Mayo Clinic, there is believed to be certain risk factors that puts women more at risk for having a child with Down syndrome. One of these is old age. A woman who has a child at an older age is more likely to have that child be born with Down syndrome. Second is if a woman is a carrier of the translocation Down syndrome, then they can pass that on to their child. Third is a woman who has a child that has Down syndrome. So someone who has already had a child with Down syndrome is more likely to have a second child with Down syndrome. Now that you know how an extra chromosome is developed and some people that are more at risk for having a child with Down syndrome, it is time to see how exactly someone who has Down syndrome is affected. According to the CDC, people with Down syndrome tend to have a flattened face, eyes that are almond shaped and tend to slant upward, tiny ears, a small neck, small hands and feet, a tongue that protrudes from the mouth, and they tend to be short in height. And so from this picture, you can tell that there's not much of a neck and that the face is very flat. According to Wiedemann and Winter, who are two people from the European Journal of Pediatrics in 2010, the development of people with Down syndrome causes them to have disorders in their eyes, their ears, their nose, and their throat. According to Mayo Clinic, people with Down syndrome are more likely to develop complications and illnesses as they grow older, and these include dementia, obesity, immune system disorders, heart defects, and leukemia. People with Down syndrome also have cognitive impairment. They are slow when performing everyday activities such as eating and walking. They also have trouble with long-term and short-term memory. And lastly, their speech is very delayed and slow and difficult to understand. Some good news is that the life expectancy for people who have Down syndrome has increased drastically. According to Wiseman, Alford, Tybuisk, and Fisher, who are four people from the Human Molecular Genetics in 2009, the new average lifespan is 55 years old, and this is due to advances in medical treatment and people being more socially accepting of people who have Down syndrome. People who have Down syndrome are affected physically and mentally in countless drastic ways. and these challenges should be understood by everyone with compassion. Today, I explained how Down syndrome is when a person has 47 chromosomes as opposed to 46 due to abnormal cell division. I informed you how Down syndrome does not have any known causes, but there are certain risk factors that put a woman more at risk of having a child with Down syndrome. I also explained how people who have Down syndrome have certain deformities in their physical appearance, and they have many intellectual disabilities. It is important to understand what Down syndrome is because it is the most common chromosomal condition, and more than 200,000 people are affected with it every single year in the US. I hope the information I presented you with today provided you with a better understanding of what Down syndrome is. The next time you see someone with Down syndrome, I challenge you to not see them as a disability, but as a walking miracle and a fighter, because that is who they are. I urge you to treat them with the same kindness and respect that you would someone who has 46 chromosomes.